So let's call to order the April 12th meeting of the Ellettsville Town
Recording
Council.
in progress.
Chief Corman, can you do the pledge?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Marshall, the prayer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our Heavenly Father, we come before you on this glorious, wonderful day. We thank you so much for the many blessings you bestowed on us. We ask you to be with us, lead and guide our council members tonight that they'll make the right decisions for this little town. Continue to bless us, lead and guide our thoughts, our conversations, and just be with us in all ways. We ask these things in Jesus' name.
Thank you. Sandy, roll call, please.
Scott Oldham.
Here.
Pamela Samples. William Ellis.
Here.
Trevor Sager.
Here.
Dan Swafford.
Approval of the minutes for the regular meeting on March 22nd, 2021.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Sandy, please.
Scott Oldham.
Yes.
William Ellis.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Action to pay accounts payable, vouchers, and payroll.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Sandy, please.
Scott Oldham.
Yes.
William Ellis.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Darla, I apologize. I think I heard you say a minute ago that you do not have the bids for the Vector.
There weren't any,
Okay.
apparently, so
Okay. Do we want to have a discussion at the council level as to what we want to do from this point forward? Perhaps with a little advice from our town manager.
I think that's appropriate. What was the last bid from the organization in Kentucky? Was it 50 or 52 for the Vector, Mike?
I think it's just not coming on. Mr. Farmer, are you there?
Mike, we're talking about the Vector. We did not receive any more bids for it. And you're on mute. You're on mute.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we have it on eBay now, and we just kind of got it open-ended, trying to get somebody to bid on it. And so that's where we're at. The one gentleman that did bid on it has withdrawn his bid, so he's no longer interested. That's all I know.
Okay. And the trailer, and I know you and I had a brief discussion about that, but I'll be honest with you, I wasn't quite clear. Did we not relist it, or what are we gonna do with that?
They have not relisted it, so I talked to Kip about it today, and so we're going to put it on eBay and the government website, and I guess we'll just leave the, I think the only bid we got was like $790 or $970. So Kip thought, Danny, are you on there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
So do you guys want, I mean, we talked about it today, Danny and I talked about it. So would you like to leave the reserve on it?
Yeah, I'd kind of like to. I mean, if people think we need the Lord 500 or something, we might do that. But I think it's a low enough reserve myself. But that's up to council.
Okay. Well, with that said, then up to the council. What you want to do, but we are going to put it on eBay, take bids, and leave it open at least till the next meeting, and also put it on the government website and try to drum up some interest in it.
Well, personally, I think I would prefer to leave it to you two as the experts as to what that piece of equipment's worth, and rather than us trying to set a reserve.
Okay.
Agree. To be honest, I have absolutely no idea what it's worth, so. Does that work for you, Mike?
Yep. works fine for me.
Okay. All right, anything else about either of the two that are up for surplus at this point, whether it be the trailer or the Vector?
No, we're just going to keep trying to get it sold and expand our audience, if you will.
Okay, excellent. One quick question, Sandy, is it possible to publish a link to both of them on the town's website?
I can ask Denise if that's a possibility.
I just think it'd be easier for people to find since it's the ones we're talking about rather than sorting through 100 of them.
I think when we put it on eBay, there's only a certain amount of time that it will be on there. I don't know if Kevin Patton's on there, but if he is, he could explain how that works. But we just decided to go that route.
That's something we've done before and it worked out well for us, so. Okay, seeing nothing further on the, move on to resolutions now. First resolution tonight is resolution 09-2021, additional appropriation and reduction of appropriations, moving appropriations from the police department to the street department.
Sandy, you want me to take that?
Yes, I do want to say this is considered a public hearing for this issue.
Okay.
As you know, we've got Dustin White, who is one of our officers here that had a little problem getting into a couple of recruit schools. We found out last month that he had run out of time actually to still be an active police officer and not attend the school. So we've got him enrolled in the next one, which he'll test late May and go to school early June. I'm saying he's going to be ready to go this time. I've been with him quite a bit the last couple, 3 weeks, and he's doing a lot of exercising. So anyway, we had the idea from the academy that's this happens. This
Have you fire off under the meat?
We got the idea from the academy that some of the departments were allowing the officers that didn't quite make it in, and that's exactly where he was at. He missed the 1.5 mile run by, believe it or not, 1.5 seconds. I mean, that's almost, it could be the timing yourself that do that. But anyway, that we was able to work with Sandy, and then of course I've cleared all 5 of us board members that we could transfer some money to the street department and have him work for the street department until his training comes up again, which, like I say, is in late May, early June. So I appreciate your support on this. I think it's well worth. Dustin is one of those fellows that I've said this before. If I asked him to work 2 nights, and 2 days in a 6-day period, he'd say, "I'll be there." Tell me when I'm going to be there. So that's the kind of kid you want. So it makes good rest. We have had no problem with him whatsoever. So like I say, I would appreciate your support on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Questions from either of the other 2 council persons?
I have none. I think that's a smart use of resources because it costs tons more to hire someone from scratch than keep them in the system.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Mike, do you object to any of this as the town manager?
I do not.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, as this is a personnel decision, I'll now ask for a motion from the council.
So moved.
Second.
Sandy, a motion and a second on resolution 09-2021.
And I do understand this is tied to a personnel issue, but the resolution is merely for an additional appropriation into the street department fund and reduction appropriation into the police department fund of $15,100.
Okay, good point. So now we'll solicit public comment before we move further with this. Is there any public comment on this resolution? Seeing none, we're back to the motion. Sandy, please.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
William Ellis,
Yes.
Trevor Sager,
Yes.
motion carries.
Next is resolution 10-2021, waiver of 60-day written notice requirement for assignment of rights and obligations under an economic development agreement.
The council will recall that last year in August, it entered into an economic development agreement with Scannell Properties and Cahey Distributors for the property located at 8101 West State Road 46 for what was to become the Cahey Commercial Distribution Warehouse. And there is a clause in the economic development agreement that stated that the property could not be transferred without notification to the town and without the town's written approval. And also there was to be a 60-day notice to the town, and whoever accepted assignment of the obligations and liabilities of the economic development agreement was to be able to meet those obligations. And so what has occurred is that Scannell Properties has transferred its ownership of the property to E.T. Cahey LLC, and now E.T. Cahey LLC wants to transfer the property to WH LLC and Indiana Limited Liability Company. And before you is a resolution which waives the 60-day notice requirement, approves of the assignment of rights. Last Friday, you were provided with a couple of assignment of rights forms which had not been signed yet by either Cahey LLC or the new owner. And those are now signed, and you should have received copies of those documents this morning. And basically what those assignment of rights documents say is that the assignee agrees to perform all obligations under the economic development agreement, including but not limited to making the annual firefighter payment. And I believe Mr. Levitt is here, and so is Mr. Von Canel, to answer any questions that the council may have about this resolution.
Thank you, Darrell. Questions from the council concerning this resolution? Any comments from the council? Do either of the two gentlemen want to make a comment?
No, I just wanted to introduce myself, and I'm Franz Von Canel. I'm legal counsel to Elm Tree. And thank you for considering this resolution this evening. The reason we're asking for the waiver is that, as you probably know, that facility is open and operating at present time. And we just experienced some unforeseen delays in closing out the punch list and other closeout matters that have deferred our closing in an unanticipated manner. We closed on March 11th. The reason we're coming to the council is that if we are forced to defer the closing for another 30 days, it will cost us several $1,000s a day that the lender is requiring to extend the loan commitments. So there is an economic harm to us, and that's the primary reason we're coming to you. And then just lastly, I wanted to stress that there is no change in the tenancy or occupancy or use by Cahey of the facility. That remains in place. This is strictly a change in ownership of the fee title to the property. And as Ms. Brown pointed out, the buyer has agreed to be bound by all the obligations of that agreement, most importantly, including the payments to the fire group, to the fire department. So I just wanted to give you that background by way of explanation and respectfully request that you favorably consider this resolution.
Thank you, sir. Is there any public comment concerning this resolution? Seeing none, back to the council for action.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 10-2021, waiver of the 60-day written notice requirement for assignment of rights and obligations under an economic development agreement.
I will second.
Motion and second. Sandy, please.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
William Ellis,
Yes.
Trevor Sager,
Yes.
motion carries.
Next is resolution 11-2021 to amend resolution 03-2020, which confirmed the designation of an economic revitalization area approved a statement of benefits and authorized periods of abatement for real property or improvements. This is Richland Senior Citizens Housing Incorporated.
I guess the brief on this request is that this is similar to what came before council earlier this year with Governor Park, in which they're asking for additional time to complete their project. The Richland Senior Citizens Housing had received a tax abatement last year at some point, I don't remember when, last year. And in it, they were planning to have the project completed by, I think, June of 2022. Due to COVID and other reasons, they're asking for that to be extended to June of 2023. And also trimming back the area within the tax abatement, which really has no effect on how, excuse me, it has no effect on the town. It's just cleaner for their records. Those are the only two changes to it. And I think I saw a representative from Richland Senior Citizens Housing at the meeting if you have any other questions.
Thank you, Kevin. Questions from the council right now? Okay, seeing none. Is there someone who wants to speak from Richland Senior Citizens?
Sure. Hello, this is Yvonne calling from Allied. And thank you, City Council and City staff for allowing us for reconsidering extending the resolution. As Kevin was stating, we have, due to COVID and a few other reasons, we have not been able to close yet on the financing, but are hoping that that will be closing at the end of this month or by mid-May. We have secured the bonds, and right now it's just a matter of timing on a Fannie Mae loan, which is why we requested for the extension. And just for clarification on the land, one of the adjustments that was made is that the development, the new construction of the 50 units will actually take place in one of the parcels rather than the two that had previously been referenced in the resolution. So the only adjustment that is made here is of that one parcel. So again, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Darla, quick question. Because it's now limited to one parcel rather than two, is this ordinance or resolution inclusive enough to take care of what they need, or do we need to revisit this?
Well, it takes care of the southern half of a parcel, and that's all they're asking for. It's my understanding that the job or the construction of this project was split up into two phases. And so it's only for the southern half that they're asking for the extension of time on, is my understanding. So that's the way it's drafted.
Just didn't want to overstep and get into Plan Commission's area.
It's, well, the Plan Commission approved their development plan, and they just need an extension of time for Lot 2A.
All right.
And it did get confusing because the northern and southern lots have the same lot number, but if you look it up on the GIS, it shows up as two different parcels, but it's the southern parcel of that lot, if that makes any sense. So
Sure. As long as it covers it. Again, back to the council to revisit that for questions or comments. Seeing none, to the public for any question or comments on this resolution. Seeing none, we'll go back to council for action.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 11-2021 to amend Resolution 03-2020, which confirmed the designation of an economic revitalization area, approved a statement of benefits, and authorized periods of abatement for real property improvements, Richland Senior Citizens Housing Incorporated.
Sandy, motion a second.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
William Ellis,
Yes.
Trevor Sager,
Yes.
Motion carries.
Ordinance is on first reading. The first tonight is ordinance 2021-09, establishing rates and charges for the use of and services rendered by the waterworks system of the town of Ellettsville.
All right.
Okay, go ahead, Darla.
Okay, I apologize for the late submission on this, but it took me a while to figure out what was going on. So you will recall by way of history that back in 2016, the town passed a water ordinance. And the town had earlier applied to the IURC for approval to increase its rates and charges in order to get a bond of, I think it was either 1.7 or 1.9 million dollars to build a secondary water line and to do some other projects that were associated with this. So the town prepared an ordinance after the IURC approved that. And then what is happening is this is the follow through, if you will, of that ordinance. In January of this year, Baker Tilly was asked to do a 30-day filing on only 4 separate issues. So that would be to add, and it should be at the beginning of the ordinance, to add a $50 customer meter deposit. That increased it from 30 to 50, and to add new charges for 6 and 8 inch meters, to add new charges for 4 and 6 inch fire protection charges. That's the hydrant, fire hydrant, and to add new charges for a 10 inch and 12 inch automatic sprinkler charge. So that's just what this ordinance deals with. And when Baker Tilly did their public notice for this, they took care of that. We didn't do that. They just mentioned these 4 items. Okay, so that's simple enough. What I did discover though, is when I was looking at this, the rates and charges that are in the ordinance are not the same as, they are the same as the IURC initially approved, but the IURC had the town do what's called a true up in July of 2016, and the numbers in the ordinance don't match that true up. But nobody's been overpaying. The town, Becky Wines and Utilities has told me that she's been charging what the IURC has told they could, what the IURC has told the town they can charge, but I need to fix that ordinance. So I'm just giving you that by way of background so that when this, when you have your next meeting, I will have an ordinance ready for you to correct what's online in American Publishing to make sure that it matches what the IURC has told us we can charge. And like I said, there's not that much of a difference, but the town has been charging, or the utilities office has been charging what they're supposed to. I just need to fix the ordinance. So that was more background than you probably wanted, but what you have before you now is the easy one with just the 4 items that Baker Tilly put in the 30-day filing back in January that have now been approved.
And to add to what Darla said, the reason we had these put into an ordinance is prior to Keehee building in Ellettsville, we did not have charges for the size of lines that they put in. Their fire line and their domestic meter were larger than anything we'd had up till then. So we had to make an ordinance that would respond to the new size of lines that we had to charge for. So up to now, we didn't have anything that size. So while we were doing it, we decided, because we don't know what's coming down the pike, we added a couple other sizes as well. So in the future, when somebody comes to town, we'll already have an ordinance that can reflect their usage. If that makes any sense. We just never had anything as big as Key before.
No, it makes complete sense. And just for a reminder for the public and everyone else, this is an ordinance on first reading tonight. So there will, of course, be corrections for the second reading, which is where we'll then approve it. Does any council have questions at this point? A little convoluted trail to get where we need to go, but just so we all recognize that when it comes back to us, it will appear somewhat different than what it does tonight with those corrections.
And
Well,
go ahead.
when this comes back, hopefully, when this ordinance 2021-09 comes back, it will be the same. I will prepare a new ordinance for you that addresses the other charges.
Okay.
Because I tried to put it into one ordinance to make it efficient, and it turned out to be cumbersome. And since Baker Tilly's public notice told the public that only these 4 things that are in the ordinance were going to be discussed at the IURC, I thought it was unfair to put everything in this ordinance. Does that make sense?
Now I understand. I apologize. I thought it was going to go the other way.
It took me 2 hours to figure this out today, so.
I'm sorry, William, we kind of cut you off. Did you have a comment?
Yes, basically that, just to be clear for the public, so I'm not saying the wrong things. This is not existing any current customers that residential customers or homeowners. This is for the new growth we're experiencing.
That is correct.
Right, other than the meter deposit increase, yes.
Okay. Well, that will come back at our next meeting, so we'll continue this discussion then. Ordinances on second reading for tonight, however, begin with ordinance 2021-05 to amend section 36.197 of the Ellettsville Town Code to establish the minimum work hours for part-time firemen.
Okay, that'll be me. We have specified hours for nearly every position in the town, and the one that we do not have is one for the part-time fire service personnel. And so what this will do, we'll have regular part-time employees will work a minimum of 24 hours per month or an equivalent of 24 hours per month over a 3-month period, starting with January 1 of the current year. And if they don't do this, then there'll be disciplinary actions. We feel this is necessary. It's about the only thing that's really not spelled out in our part-time packets for what the expectations are going forward with the people. It seems to be kind of hard to, as part-time is kind of fluid in nature, and they move on from time to time. We'll keep somebody 2, 3, maybe 4 years. Others don't stay very long, but they think they can work it out and stay part-time with us. It just doesn't work out. So they'll know up front now, if we get this to pass, that they have to work at least 24 hours a month. And this is a similar requirement in departments of our size. And we're the only department it affects. It only goes into the fire department section of the personnel policy.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Questions from the council? Okay, since this is truly a personnel matter, is there action from the council?
I'll move to approve ordinance 2021-05.
And I'll second that. I don't know if Trevor's frozen or not, so.
Yeah, sorry, I'm in and out.
Okay. Sandy, you have a motion in a second, so whenever you're ready.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
William Ellis,
Yes.
Trevor Sager,
I'm trying to vote yes. Sorry, I'm having internet issues.
thank you very much. I got it. Motion
Yeah.
carries.
Thank you.
The next is ordinance 2021-06 to amend chapter 74 of the traffic schedule designating no parking areas.
This was discussed at the last meeting. If this ordinance is passed, it will change chapter 74, schedule 1, no parking areas of the town code, and it will add the streets Abigail Lane, Jackie Court, Nicholas Lane, and Rachel Way to the schedule of no parking areas.
Okay. Questions from the council? Questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, we're back to the council for action.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-06 to amend chapter 74 of the traffic schedule designating no parking areas.
Second.
Motion is second. Sandy, please.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
William Ellis,
Yes.
Trevor Sager,
Yes.
motion carries.
Next is ordinance 2021-07 to amend Chapter 73 of the traffic schedule of maximum speed limits.
This was discussed briefly at the last meeting as well, and it adds Abigail Lane, Jackie Court, Nicholas Lane, and Rachel Way to the schedule of maximum speed limits. And I believe for all of those streets, they are going to be, there is going to be a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. If the council approves this. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Questions or comments from the council?
Just for everybody, we're not changing the speed limit on State Road 46 to 90, so you can't use that as an excuse.
No, but we would like to make some comments about State Road 46 and the appropriate applications of traffic flow, but we'll leave that for another night.
Exactly.
Comments from the public or questions? Seeing none, back to the council for action.
I move to approve ordinance 2021-07 to amend Chapter 73 of the traffic schedule of maximum speed limits.
Second.
Motion is second. Sandy, please.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
William Ellis,
Yes.
Trevor Sager,
Yes.
motion carries.
Next is ordinance 2021-08 to amend Chapter 73, Schedule 3 stop intersections at through streets.
Again, this amends the traffic schedule to make Abigail Lane a through street with the stop street at Jackie Court, or stop streets at Jackie Court, Nicholas Lane, and Rachel Way. It makes McNeely Street a through street with a stop at Abigail Lane. And I think that's it for this particular ordinance.
Okay, questions from council? Questions or comments from the public? Back to the council for action.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-08 to amend Chapter 73, Schedule 3 stop intersections at through streets.
Motion, well, actually, I'll second that. So your motion is second, Sandy, when you're ready.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
William Ellis,
Yes.
Trevor Sager,
Yes.
motion carries.
There is no old business. There's no listed flood report, Mike, unless you have something specific. Okay.
Yeah, I do not. I think I forwarded the latest flood report to you, and it's just an update of the work they're doing. So there's really nothing of substance to talk about.
Okay. Under new business tonight is 2 appointments to the Ellettsville Building Corporation.
As I stated in an email, Dennis Williamson has resigned, and I received his resignation letter this morning. I sent that to the council members. And also Dave Drake has been serving on the building corporation, and both Dennis and Dave have been very fine board members, as is Jack Neal. Unfortunately, the articles of incorporation for the building corporation state that the members cannot be town employees. So I think that means we should replace David Drake too, much as I hate to replace him, but that's why there's 2 appointments up.
Okay. Sandy or Darley, either one, are there any conditions with these, whether this is partisan or completely open or?
It's completely open, and they're 3-year terms, and there is nothing in the articles of incorporation that states or implies that the terms have to be staggered. And I believe I sent the town council an email about that as well. So given the timing as to when the Ellettsville Building Corporation was starting, we're actually starting the 3-year rotation this year. So I will start keeping track of that, but I think we need 2 appointments, and then in 2024, we'll be back. So
And do these individuals need to live within the town boundaries?
You know, it doesn't say that in the Articles of Incorporation.
Okay.
I think it would be helpful if they lived, if not in town, at least close, and had an interest in the town's building projects, because that's what the building corporation does. It holds the deeds actually for the fire department, the police department, and the town hall, and will hold the deeds, meaning the deeds are in the building corporation's name and not the town's name, until the bond is paid off. It's a once a year meeting usually, that it takes longer usually to set up the meeting than it takes to have the meeting. But the only time there's really any work to be done is if there's a bond or something of that nature, and the building corporation has to meet and sign paperwork. So typically it's a pretty easy gig unless we've got something going on, but.
Okay. Council, I know we've known about this for a little while. Does anyone have nominations for?
I do. I would like to nominate Carly Woodruff. I believe she's here if you want her to speak for a minute.
Absolutely. Is Carly Woodruff here? Hi, I think you're mute, Carly. Do you want to say something about this?
I'm Carly. I live in the town of Ellettsville. I've lived here since 2014. I came here for IU and migrated to Ellettsville, and yeah, I work for the county, so.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else, William, that you want to nominate?
Not at this time.
Trevor?
I don't have any nominees.
Okay, nor do I. When the rest of the council is able to meet with us, perhaps they do, or perhaps in the next several weeks, someone will come forward with an interest. For now, is there an interest in, is there a second for the nomination of Ms. Woodruff for the commission?
I'll second.
Okay, I'm sorry, it's corporation. So Sandy, when you're ready?
Todd Oldham,
Yes.
William Ellis,
Yes.
Trevor Sager,
Yes.
motion carries.
Well, congratulations to Carly, and thank you very much for agreeing to serve.
Yes,
Revisit this. Sandy, if you put this back on the agenda for next time, we'll see if we have other ideas.
Okay.
The American Rescue Plan Act. I'm not sure if this is Mike, Darla, or Sandy.
well, I think Sandy had just placed it on the agenda for the council to give us some ideas as to what they want. I don't know if any of you have had the chance to look through the State Board of Examiners directives or read any newspaper articles or heard any news stories about what this money can be used for. But there are limits as to what the town can use the money for. And I believe the first distribution of federal money will go to the states around May 11th. The states are supposed to get the money to the various municipalities not later than 30 days later. And then there will be a second influx of money sometime after that. I will say, from what I can see from the State Board of Accounts memorandums, this town has to keep very, very careful records about this. And if the town is audited and the opinion of the State Board of Accounts is that the town has not kept track of the money, the town may have to pay it back. There is to be no commingling of funds with other town funds. So that's rule number one, is there has to be a separate account through which this American Rescue Plan money flows. It can't be used for pensions. Not that I've heard anybody mention that to me, but that's just one of the rules. But as I'm reading the State Board of Accounts memorandums and section 603 of the Social Security Act, the payments have to be, that the town uses this for, have to be for one of four categories. Investments in water, sewer, or broadband, okay. The provision of government services that are due to the reduction in revenue. It can also be used for workers performing essential work by providing them premium pay, or it could be used to respond to the public health emergency, or to reimburse the town for negative economic impacts. So that's just an idea, the broad categories.
And I'd like to add that one thing I know is that we're to monitor our revenue from like income tax. 2019 is our base year. So if we run lower than the 2019 figure, then we can reimburse the lost revenue with these funds.
Sandy's correct. You look at your income tax flow, and then you also look at your money that the town has received from utilities, because as you're aware of the IURC, there was a ban on collecting late fees and things of that nature from households. So the town may have lost income through late fees or just non-payment of utility bills. So that gets included. And there's a formula in here that the state has provided us with to give you an idea of how you calculate your lost income. The town, if it wants to, can also make grants to small businesses and not-for-profits, or give aid to industries in tourism, travel, or hospitality. If you do that, though, you have to come up with grant forms. There has to be like a contract signed between the town and the recipient of the grant money, stating how they're going to use the money. So that's just an idea, but keep that in mind too. We have to make sure everybody else keeps their paperwork in line as well. So.
And the projected revenue is 1.4 million to be distributed in 2 payments.
Sandy or Darla, do we have to spend it by a certain date?
Yes, I think we've got time. It's like December 2024.
Okay, so we can get a little further out, a little higher up, so to speak, to see where the damages really are to use this.
We just need to create a fund before we receive the money, and the fund has to designate the uses. And I think that we'll be obligated, don't you, Darla, to follow the guidelines that are set out in.
Yes.
Would it be easier for you, Sandy, if we created the fund like the next meeting, put it on the agenda?
Well, Darla's going to help me work on an ordinance to create that fund, yes.
As I understand it, the ordinance to create the fund also has to state in it the purposes for which the town intends to use the money. So maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe you can do that in 2 separate ordinances, but you do absolutely have to pass an ordinance that establishes the fund, first of all.
So that will be coming back to us in the future.
Yes, but I would like to get some ideas from council at some point, or from Mike Farmer, as to what you're thinking in terms of how all of this 1.4 million is to be spent.
Okay. Do we want to have that discussion this evening, or are we better off putting that off, or maybe in the email at a certain point? I think right now we're all kind of shooting from the hip.
Do you have a work session scheduled anytime soon?
We've discussed it, so it's probably one we need to make happen, yes.
That might be better than trying to do it right now, so.
Okay. Mike, can we add that to the list of the other things that you've got in the making for the work session?
Sure. Let's see. Would you want that in a couple weeks?
Probably within
Well,
the
I
next.
guess it'd be next Monday was when we have a regular scheduled work session. So now, would you want it this month or next month?
What do the other council feel?
Well, if we're going to have to kind of get a good idea of what we're spending this on, I still think we're not through this event yet. So I don't know how we can have that discussion yet.
I think there's a couple things you could probably throw out to set ourselves up for economic development once we come out of it. But I think you're right to go whole hog in the middle of it and just say this is what we're spending it all. I don't think we should probably do.
Right. So I don't know. I mean, we can brainstorm, but the resolution, I just worry. I mean, I don't care if we have to meet again, but we're going to need a second one, because if we just have a brainstorming session, which is what it would almost be, by the time we look to actually pass the resolution to iron this out to what we targeted to spend it on, it's going to look different.
Sure. Well, I think some of the other items that are up for discussion in the work session kind of frankly lead into some of these discussions. So maybe we should just do it all at once, and then we can always come back and revisit later if we need to do more.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I am too. So we're
And I
doing the
just,
next,
I'm sorry.
so are we thinking the work session next Monday?
Yeah, but I think the two council persons that are gone now need to weigh in pretty heavily as to if they can do it or not.
Okay.
Does that work for everyone else?
So tentatively, I'll put it on my calendar, depending on availability of the other council members.
Sure. Sandy, does that work for you?
Yes.
Real quick, if I can break away just for a moment, I'd like to thank Troop 119 and 1119 for attending the meeting tonight. The Scout Troop joined us for their Communications Merit Badge, as they've done in years past. It's been a little hampered this year, clearly because of the COVID and the fact that we're not meeting in person, but they've taken the opportunity to join us tonight via Zoom. So I'd like to very much extend our thanks and our appreciation to making sure all those scouts were able to join us. Anybody else with the Americans Rescue Plan Act? Okay, we'll move on now to the fire department request to hire 2 full-time firemen and 2 part-time firemen.
Yes, I'd like to do this in 2 parts if I could. The first one, I'd like to have the town board approve 2 positions in the full-time department, replacing previous positions. And that is of Adam Yelich and Cole Jones. I'm asking for a conditional approval pending the outcome of their health physicals, which is now customary.
Okay. Questions or comments from the council? Actions from the council.
Make a motion for the fire department to hire 2 full-time firemen, Adam Yelich and Cole Jones.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Sandy, please.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
William Ellis,
Yes.
Trevor Sager,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. The next one is I have 2 names for you to consider for part-time employment, and that is Andrew Whittington and Kyle Britton. They come to us from other departments and they are willing to work for us part-time and have availability to do so. Kyle Britton and Andrew Whittington, part-time.
Questions or motions from council?
I'll make a motion to hire 2 part-time. The names just escaped me. What were they again, Mike?
Kyle Britton
Kyle Britton
and Andrew Whittington.
and Andrew Whittington.
Second.
Motion second. Sandy, please.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
William Ellis,
Yes.
Trevor Sager,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much.
Congratulations to all involved. Move now to privilege of the floor. Anyone have any business for the council not part of the normal agenda? Sandy, I see no hands raised for what I can see. Do you have anything further?
Amber's monitoring for us. Amber, do you see any hands?
No, nobody has their hand raised.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to supervisor comments, starting with Mr. Farmer.
Yes. Well, there's been some talk about how we're using the town hall currently, and some concern. And I plan on having a couple of meetings in the town hall, the large space that we have our meetings in. And so it kind of goes contrary to having the town hall closed as we have since the pandemic started. So with respect to those concerns, I just thought I'd put it out there that we'll be hosting a meeting next week that has to do with initiative by IU Health to provide a trail system that would connect Ellettsville to both Owen County and Monroe County. And it's actually an initiative that deals with, getting people out, exercising their health. And IU Health is willing to put up a large sum of money to help make that happen. And they're thinking that a regional approach to the problem might be helpful in having some success. So Owen County, Town of Spencer, and Monroe County will have some officials there. Probably won't be more than 8, 10 people at the most. And we'll practice safe distancing and mask and all that. So the other meeting that I'd like to have involves the Chamber of Commerce. We're in the middle of the Envision Ellettsville, and there's a lot of work to be done. And we think a face-to-face meeting would help provide the platform for being more productive. So with that said, not to get in real deep into the weeds on this, I mean, what's the board think about what I've decided to do? And if they're concerned, then I need to know about it.
Comments from the board?
I don't have any concerns.
I don't either. I hope, as a matter of fact, we'll be by 4th of July having fireworks.
Yeah, and I would
Not
agree.
in town hall.
I would agree. I have no concerns whatsoever with it, particularly because it's not a governmental meeting, an elected body meeting where we're having to force people into being there. It's a voluntary meeting of those people who choose to be there. They can either be there or not be there. I think Zoom's a very appropriate place for elected governmental issues. That way, no one has to risk themselves going anywhere where they don't want to be just to see their government work. But this is clearly not that case.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that what I do is approved by the board and how we use the town hall is satisfactory. That's all I got.
Okay.
Darla had kind of asked earlier last week about if the council had any idea of when we might start meeting again in person at town hall. So I wondered if you had any thoughts on that.
I think that's probably a good question that we should probably banter around amongst each other and to see when everyone's comfortable with that. Again, I don't want to speak for the other 2 council people present, but this currently works for us and is still allowed. So I guess I'm interested in hearing the other council's perspective on it.
I'm all for meeting in person, but I don't want to exclude the people that have been meeting on Zoom and normally would not be able to meet on Zoom. I think we have to figure out a way to incorporate that also.
I did buy some equipment so that I can televise the meeting on Zoom, but unless I have someone to sit with that and monitor the meeting, it'll be hard for the people to ask questions. But currently, Amber's been monitoring the meetings for me from home, and she might be willing to continue that.
I guess bearing that in mind, I have a question for Darla. As I read the proposal that's coming forward from, the legislature, but it was coming out of IACT, I guess. There's a provision to allow certain officials a certain number of times a year to meet from home or from wherever they choose to via Zoom. However, I don't see in there a provision to allow the public to comment from home. Is that going to be something that's excluded or?
Well, I don't know. I think there is something in the Indiana code that would allow the town council to do what you just suggested, and I will take a look at that. I think you can do that, but you have to have a policy about that in your code. So I will take a look at that and I'll report back to the council on that at the next meeting. And if you think it's appropriate, I'll come up with some policy and put it before you for your consideration.
I just want to make sure we're following what we need to follow before we start getting off in a land where none of us want to be. Okay. Any further questions or comments about that? Okay. I'm sorry, Mike, do you have anything further for you?
I do not.
Any of the other supervisors? I know that Chief Darnell's had to depart from us for a personal matter that he's taken care of.
I got one. I want to apologize to everybody for that rendition, that terrible rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance. I goofed it all up, so my apologies.
Once in 1,000, I think you're allowed.
Okay.
Any of the other supervisors? Okay, moving now to council comments. Okay, I've got one real quick, and I just want to, in particular, single out one employee. he and I had a discussion this week that frankly really hit me hard and in a good way. And I just want to express my thanks to Mike Farmer for his leadership through the last year and through COVID, and really moving the town forward despite a whole lot of things that keep getting thrown his way. He is constantly looking forward, constantly looking out for the betterment of Ellettsville, constantly looking out for the betterment of the town and the employees. And it just never ends with Mike. I mean, there's constantly something coming up that he's got an answer for. Or if he doesn't have an answer, he's got an answer 36 hours from now. And he just makes things happen. So from me to you, thank you so very much for doing what you do.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay. See no other comments. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Sandy, please.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
William Ellis,
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Motion carries. Meeting adjourned at 7:26 PM.